I'm going to start with you, Mr. Corbin. What is the strongest, and try to be concise with your answers. We have a lot of ground we want to cover. I know you have a lot to say, so we'll manage it as best we can. But what's the strongest argument you have for the voters of Wilton Manors as to why they should replace Scott Newton as mayor?
Well, we've got sewage flowing across the street from my house. I keep checking to see if it's flowing right now because it's been raining a lot. $15 million over the last 15 years has been wasted from the utility fund and spent on other things. This is what Fort Lauderdale has been doing until they had their 250 million gallon sewage discharge. We've had just a 330,000 gallon discharge, and I'm here to fix that. I'm putting the money in the right directions. I'm going to read the engineering reports and do whatever it takes so that people's toilets will flush when it rains a lot. Is that
okay?
Enough?
Yeah. Mayor Newton, this does indeed, and this is a point that Boyd Corbin made strongly in his questionnaire. This is Northeast 26th Street and Andrews Avenue mainly, right? This sounds like Fort Lauderdale all over again. So, Mayor Newton, what's going on there?
Well, it's pretty simple. We don't have our own plant, sewer plant or water plant. We all get it from Wilton Manors or from Fort Lauderdale, and it all goes to Fort Lauderdale. And so we have to work on what they do, and they cannot take the water that comes in through leaky pipes of their own and some of our own. I mean, we've been working on our pipes since I've been on there for 22 years, and off and on. I've been ran for state house and lost one time, and then I was off for 2 years and then became mayor 2 years ago again. And obviously the people must like what I do, or so I wouldn't have been voted back in the last time. But it's not all about water and sewer in our city. We have safety. We have other kind of issues in our city that I've been working on for years. And we just did a plan for water and sewer for our city. It's $36 million over the next 10, 15 years. And it's not as simple as saying we have a broken pipe or something here. Yes, there's problems here and there. But like the last storm we had was an extraordinary 100-year rainstorm that we had that had problems in Fort Lauderdale. They had pumps shut down. They a lot of people don't know it, but they can't throw their wipes into the toilets and other things like that, and it backs up their pumps. They have to stop the pumps to clean out the filters so they can keep the pumping going on. There's a lot of other things that go on with what's happening, but if what's going on in Fort Lauderdale, they're going to put about $1 billion into their system. When it all gets put together and finished up, then we're going to have a system that's going to be very good for our city in Fort Lauderdale. We only have one pipe that goes from Wilton Manors from behind the bowling alley, which takes all of our sewage from there and goes to Fort Lauderdale. And it goes in a long way north and then east and then back south and then back west and then back to the port. We're putting a new one in that goes straight from the bowling alley on 16th straight down 15th, which cuts out about 6 miles of pipe, which is going to be something to really help the system out a lot. So it's that and safety and our park system and all that. So I think the people and the residents of our city know that I'm out there for everything and everyone.
How long is it going to take to fix this? I mean, I realize
fix it for us. I wouldn't say fix. We've almost finished every one of our pumping stations in Wilton Manors. I think we have 1 or 2 more left to finish. And then we have all of our pumps are good for another 50, 70 years. And then it's just pipes here and there getting replaced. We've been slip lining pipes for probably, 18 years now, little at a time. Sometimes you just don't replace pipes just to replace them. We do it when we know they're going to have a breakage. We have a camera. We camera all the pipes here and there. And when we find a problem, we put in slip lining and we fix the problem. We try to fix the problem before it's over. But until Fort Lauderdale can get out the sewer water that we have going to them, they're supposed to take from us and can do it consistently, we're going to have some problems. We are. It's simple as that. When Fort Lauderdale gets their act together.
Okay. Mr. Corbin, hold on. Well, I'm going to maintain decorum here. You'll get plenty of chances to speak. Mr. Corbin, Mr. Corbin, what do you think about what you've just heard?
Oh my God. It's an inflow and infiltration problem. The water is coming into our sewer system for 2 places. We cannot blame this on Fort Lauderdale. Okay. I mean, Fort Lauderdale's making it worse, but our water is getting into our sewer system by the lift stations and the broken clay gravity fed pipes. And these have been neglected for the last 2 decades. So much extra water is getting in there that it's overwhelming our sewer system. It has nowhere to go. It comes up through the manholes right at the intersection I had mentioned. But here's the thing. For the last 18 years, the city has been intentionally uncapping sewer cleanouts in people's driveways. My driveway has been damaged 2 times. It's damaged right now. You can come and take a look at that. They unscrew it. They allow the sewer to come out. It goes into the roads. Cars drive over it, goes into the storm drains and right into the middle river. This is a big fix. We have a lot ahead to do. And just because they say they're going to spend $10 million on it next year, after I became a candidate 3 months ago, they started saying this. It doesn't mean that that money is going to get spent.
Okay. I've got other topics. I want to switch gears to a different topic completely here. And that's salaries of city officials. Now, I understand, I'm going to start with you, Mayor Newton. I understand very well, and I've read all the stories about it, that you, compared to other cities of your size, you were underpaid, and it's a very demanding job. I don't want, I'd rather nobody demagogue this issue, but here's my question. Inflation is through the roof. People are being priced out of their homes. And at a time like this, the optics just seem all wrong to be increasing your own salaries. What is your response?
There's always debates on both sides of this. And it's funny, we haven't been paid what we should be paid for years and years and years. Maybe we should have been doing it every year, adding a little bit more. You're right. But it would have been real simple for me to say, let's do this next year after the election, when there's no election at all. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that people understand what's going on during election year and know what I mean by what I say, that we put in many hours. I make like $6 an hour if you put down what's going on and the hours I put in every week, and all the other commissioners put in. And the ones that make $30,000 a year, they have an assistant and they get about $1,000 to $1,500 stipend a month. We didn't ask for that, didn't ask for an assistant. So really, even though we've gotten this raise, we still are not even close to what the mid-range is if you talk about everything that the other cities with the commissioners and mayors get. So I was just trying to bring it up to where it's really reasonable. I spend over $12,000 a year on just doing things for the city. If you think like right now, I'm not working, not making any money, I am talking to you guys, which is fine. That's part of my job. But when I lose, 10, 15 hours a week, not doing my job, making a lot more money than I am as mayor, even at the 30,000, I shouldn't lose money doing this job. It's respectful to do that. So I have no problem with what we did. And there was 3-4 people that said they didn't like the idea that we've got that much raise. And I've gotten praised by most people thinking they still wouldn't do it for 30,000 a year. So you're going to have both sides. And I think we did the right thing. And so I'm not going to apologize for anything about that.
Okay. Mr. Corbin, what say you, sir?
Commissioner Gary Resnick brought this up, and he said, you know what? He voted against it, actually, this 140% raise. He said, you know what? It should be a 25% raise. All right. Look what we could have done with the money. Okay. Here's the consent order from last year. Sorry to bring up sewage, but they fined us $288,000. Okay. They said, listen, if you guys stop taking money out of your utility fund, you can use this $288,000 fine and fix up your utilities. Okay. You know what we chose to do? We chose to take $570,000 out of the utility fund next year. And now we just have to pay a fine. So you know what? 25% raise, that probably would have been good. 140%, that's greedy and ridiculous. And that's what Fort Lauderdale did. And 3 of their commissioners are quitting halfway through the term. So it really doesn't help attract better people.
Okay. That's an interesting point. I do want to say this, Mr. Corbin, to be intellectually honest, if the raise was such a terrible idea and you're elected mayor in November, are you going to take the raise?
Well, that's a silly question to ask any politician, because that just opens the door for me to lie, and make false promises. Of course, I'm going to take the raise.
Okay. Is Mayor Newton right that maybe the execution can be questioned here, but But the fact is that people and elected officials in Wilton Manors are underpaid for what they do compared to similarly sized cities.
You know what? They attend a couple meetings a month, and then around the budget time, they sit on a lot more meetings. But this is more of a calling. This is not a financial kind of a thing where you come in and make this your job. This is more of a charity kind of a thing, is the way that I look at it.
All right. Mayor Newton, we asked candidates as an exercise to list their top 3 priorities, and we fully realize at the Sun Sentinel there could be 23 priorities, and it's hard to boil it down sometimes. But I got to say, you're one of the few elected officials in Broward County this cycle who did not put affordable housing on the list when it has reached crisis proportions in most places. Tell us how bad the housing situation is in Wilton Manors.
Well, we have a lot more housing coming in. We have many development projects coming in, and none of them have been approved. And I want to work with them to bring in some workforce housing. And it's tough. I have a daughter who's a teacher, and right now she cannot afford to buy in Wilton Manors, but a lot of people can't. There's a lot of cities that have high-priced homes. There's a lot of people that are buying homes for over $1 million in Wilton Manors right now. And it's tough when a piece of property that was worth $600,000 last year that you might be able to build 200 affordable housing units is now $8 million, and they want to put in apartments that are going to be costing $2,800 or $3,600 a month, which to me is outrageous. I wouldn't want to pay that, but it's something that we have to work with developers. I mean, where do you get the money from? We need to get it from developers and find some property and build some workforce housing that's going to be affordable, not just say affordable. We had some condos that were put up that were townhomes that they said would be affordable. They turned out to be $600,000. To me, that's not affordable.
Okay.
It's a thing that I don't think that just cities can do by themselves. I think the county and state and federal need to put money where their mouth is. They all talk about they want affordable housing for people, but they don't do anything about it. They always want to push things down to the cities. The cities can't afford it by themselves. We need to work all together.
Okay, I thought Broward County government was putting some money, serious money into affordable housing. Are they not?
Some, not in Wilton Manors.
Right, you're too small. Mr. Corbin, what are your ideas? What is your solution to attack the affordable housing situation? And
we have 12,000 residents. We have about, I think it's 6,000 units in our city. We are planning on building 1,236 luxury apartments, all of them in 5 mega structures. We just jacked up our ability to build. We just jacked up from 25 units per acre to 60 units per acre last year, and none of that is affordable housing. Now, we made a mistake as a city, and we bought about 8 townhomes on the water next to Collahatchee Park for some idiotic, unnecessary parking lot that the city wanted to do. We spent, I don't know, $1.5 million buying this. Now, we can make lemonade out of this lemon by turning this into affordable housing. This is the one spot that we can actually do this because this is city owned. And we can say only affordable housing should go here. Now, I've had a couple commissioners, kind of parrot this idea of mine, but no one's done anything. And if Scott was sincere about doing something, he'd at least be working on a plan. But you can put in a lot of small units that's affordable. And that would be just one example. If you're curious about
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
Just let you know that if you go back in some of the records, I've already said that I'd like to sell that piece of property and do something with it. But, if you go to all the meetings, you would understand and some of the things that are going on in our city.
Said that when you bought it.
Is one of the solutions, Mayor Newton, is one of the solutions being considered the construction of these micro units? Is that
yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. But to me, to put, you say for workforce housing, but some workforce housing is not just one person. It's just not a couple. They might have children. You can't put 3-4 people into a 600 square foot or 400 square foot home or unit. It's just, I mean, come on. To me, is that affordable? That's putting him in a jail, for crying out loud.
Okay, I'm going to pass the questioning to my colleague Dan Sweeney here for a moment. Dan?
Sure, yeah. Mr. Corbin, you listed, when we asked in the questionnaire your work history, you listed that you actually operate vacation rentals. Is that right?
Well, I built a home. I bought some land. I built a home in 2003. A tree fell on it. I fixed the home. I put in a swimming pool. And then I started doing vacation rentals way before this whole thing started 15 years ago. Okay. I've been doing that very successfully, and I don't bother my neighbors.
Okay. And you also put, I thought it was an interesting perspective given your occupation, that when we asked about whether your city has an ordinance regulating short-term rentals, you said the vacation rental industry in Wilton Manors is a mess: parties, drugs, illegal parking, etc. What can the city do now about vacation rentals what can the city do that it is not doing now, I guess is what I should say?
Well, I just had a meeting with someone at the city who said, it's up to code enforcement. And that's the police department. And we have, don't make me go over the list of complaints about the police right now. But for as far as vacation rentals goes, code enforcement, we hired a new code enforcement person. They quit a few months ago. That's what we want to do. The city's plan is they've been anti-vacation rentals for the last 10 years. They even made it illegal to have vacation rentals, but that was shot down by some residents that got together and spent $80,000 on a lawyer and said, city, you can't do that. So the city's plan, which I don't agree with, is to now have the overburdened code enforcement department start doing twice-a-year inspections of all the vacation rental homes in the city. This hasn't been passed yet, but this is what they want to do. And I think it's just a way of just tormenting the vacation rental industry instead of getting code enforcement to get their act together. And when someone has parking with 20 cars out in the street, and when someone has loud parties and things like that, send the police over there and let them do something and take care of the situation, because right now it's a big mess.
Mr. Newton, what do you think? Is the city doing enough about vacation rentals?
Well, you must be in a different city than I am, because yes, it was a problem a couple of years ago. And most of the people that have the Airbnbs and the vacation rentals are starting to get in line for what the city wants. And that is, it's not that we don't want them. We don't want 30 of them on a 40-house street and having parties and all that. And they're coming back in line and getting the people in here that are supposed to be here. We have code enforcement. We did have someone leave code enforcement, but he left for a better job for better pay. So I don't understand that. I think everyone who wants a better job and for better pay somewhere should go. So we hired someone else. He's doing a great job. We've hired a couple more code officers, and now we have a complete code office. And before we were short, we only had 1 or 2 code officers. It's kind of hard to go through the city and do that with 2 code officers. So now we have 4, and it's getting more and more cleaner in our city of Airbnbs, because they understand what they need. Now we go after them right away. When you get 30 calls a week and you only have 1 person or maybe working part-time doing it, it's hard to get it under control. Now we have it under control. We don't know what's going on. What I understand is most people aren't even registered. We probably have 400 or 500 vacation rentals, but we have probably a couple hundred more that aren't even registered. And what's wrong with being registered? And what's wrong with being told you can't do this and you can do this and you can't do that? This city should not be a total 50, 60% vacation rentals. Where's your community? Where's your neighborhood then? There is no neighborhood anymore. You don't know your neighbors because there is no neighbors. There's somebody new coming in your house across the street, or 4 or 5 houses across the street from you. They're all new people every weekend coming in. That's not a neighborhood anymore. People like being a neighborhood in Wilton Manors. They don't spend $1 million on a home to have 4 vacation rentals across the street from them.
Hey, Dan, I heard that code enforcement guy got fired over some kind of a dispute over his personal cell phone. It seems like just a rookie move for a chief of police that really is, he's trying to wear the shoes that are too big for him. We need an exceptional chief of police to come in and straighten these things out. I mean, Scott, he had his son come in became a police officer, shot up to detective in 2 years, and then quit. While it takes a black guy 10 years without a name of Newton, 10 years to become detective. I mean, there's a lot more than pay to retain good officers. And I mean, our last chief of police, I heard that he quit because he was caught stealing from the city. And, you know, what more can I say?
Hey, Dan, I wish somebody would get their information straight before they do anything. I'm not going to get into all that because almost 80% of what you just said is untrue. But
Okay.
you know what? Just keep doing. It's fine.
I just want to follow up really quickly on something Mr. Corbin said. Mr. Corbin, I want to be clear to the voters of Wilton Manors that if you're elected mayor, you want the police chief who's there, you want him fired, right?
Not fired. No, I think he was doing a pretty good job. He's a local boy, and he's been, you know, raised in the city. His parents still live in the city. He knows a lot about the city. I think he was doing pretty good as assistant chief. But then, you know, the opportunity came, and the city, I don't know why, but they couldn't find another chief. They didn't look hard enough. Lots of reasons. But I don't think he should be fired, but we need a chief of police that can come in and really pull things together. Speeding is out of control. It's just drugs. There's a whole lot of things going on, and I've got my list if you want me to go over it.
Yeah, Mayor Newton, how you know this can be asked of any community in Florida and in the United States, but I want to ask you about the seriousness of a substance abuse problem in Wilton Manors, in your opinion.
I don't believe it's as bad as it used to be. But let me say one thing: our new chief of police is a strong chief in the city of Wilton Manors. Just because some people don't like some of the things that they do wrong and they get tickets for, or things that happen in our city, but he's doing what he's supposed to do to make city of Wilton Manors safe. And in the drug situation, listen, there's like you said, there's a drug problem in every city in America, which is the saddest thing because doctors are giving way too much drugs to people. We're getting too much drugs coming in from all over, not just from Mexico, from everywhere that comes in this country. But I would not say that we are any worse or better than anywhere else. In fact, I think we are better than some cities. We're definitely better than Fort Lauderdale, but they're a bigger city. I mean, we don't have the low income communities that you know, sometimes have that effect in it, which is terrible. And we need to clean it up everywhere, not just Wilton Manors. Everywhere needs to be cleaned up.
But it seems like drugs have infiltrated our police department. I mean,
oh my gosh, here we go.
Steroids, and it looks like we have 1 or 2 officers that have abused steroids. Roid rage is real. Where did I get that from? From a cop. She said that, and it's the most truth that there is. I mean, cops will get people behind, out of the way of cameras and beat the hell out of them. You know, they can't help it because they're on these drugs. Now, I complained about 2 officers that appeared to be on steroids. One of them left the police department within a month, and the other one lost about 50 pounds, okay? A year or 2 later, he gained back the 50 pounds. He looked like a professional wrestler, okay? This is not good. And also, that same police officer gave me, I think it was $500 or $1,000 worth of tickets for riding my bicycle in a bike lane going the wrong direction before I was doing a left-hand turn. So, I mean, we have a big drug problem going on, and there's more I could tell you, and there's a lot more that I've heard by knocking on doors.
Let me ask a couple of 30,000-foot questions briefly here. Mr. Corbin, how many times have you run for elective office in Wilton Manors?
This is my 4th time. The first time didn't really count because I was out on bond, felony bond, after I was falsely arrested by the Wilton Manors Police Department. So 3 times, this is my 3rd time seriously. And mainly I'm doing it because I opened up my front door in June and I saw sewage just spewing down the streets.
All right. Dan Sweeney, I kind of jumped in front of you there a little bit, Dan.
Yeah, we sort of veered off there for a minute. Yeah, we've been talking a lot about the police force, and I want to avoid any sort of hearsay about, you know, who's on steroids or whatever. But
it's obvious.
Overall,
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Corbin, really, Dan Sweeney's right. Unless you want to identify by name the officers you're talking about.
Kevin Logren.
Okay.
I have him on video after he pulled me over on my bicycle, and he was finishing the conversation with my driver's license in his pocket. He was trying to steal my driver's license. A whistleblower came up and said he does this all the time, and they laugh about it. They think it's very funny because if they catch you driving without a driver's license, you get to go to jail. These are some really bad cops that we have.
Dan, just let you know that when police officers take your license to check who you are, make sure who you are, they put it in their pocket. They do it all the time. All the police departments do it. So just let you know.
They don't keep your license and say goodbye.
Overall, Mr. Newton, what do you think? How do you think, in general, the Wilton Manors Police Department is doing? In that, for cities of your size, you know, a lot of them don't have police departments in Broward County. Most of them, you know, contract through BSO. So, just give your police department a grade. Like, how do you think they've been doing over the past years while you've been mayor?
A+. I think they're getting better and better. We don't want to go to BSO. I don't want to go to BSO. It'll cost more. Back in the day, and listen, I like BSO. Don't get me wrong. They help us out with if we have a murder in our city, the helicopter if we need them if something's going on. We work very well together. So I don't mean it that way. But my residents want our own police department. I like our own police department. If my city residents would decide that they don't want to go to their own police, they go to BSO, I would look into that. But right now, we all like our police department. You know your police officers. If you don't do anything wrong, you don't get tickets. We have a good assistant chief who's in there now. Our chief is a wonderful person. He is there to help anyone. If you go out and see what he's at every event, he's out there to make sure what's going on. He even goes out on Friday and Saturday nights sometimes and walk the beat to see what's going on in the city. So he's not one of these guys that just sits behind the desk and just does his thing from 8 to 5 and go home. He's been out there at 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, first thing in the morning. So our police department, in fact, I opened up Article 1 in their 3-year contract is up this year or up next year. But since everybody in the commission got it raised, all the rest of the city staff employees got it raised, I decided to open up Article 1, which is salaries. And right now, there's an offer on the table to give them a 7% raise this year, which is what they were not going to get. So I think that would even make them happier to do that too. I want our police department to be happy with their pay, happy where they work. And right now, I think they're happier than they have been in a long time. So, you know, as they say, happy place, happy workplace, happy workers. So I think, I don't think a lot of those police officers right now would want to be anywhere else than Wilton Manors right now.
Oh.
Okay.
All right. Mayor, I want to stay with you for a second. I want to ask, I guess this is a philosophical question. You tell me. But if you're a teacher, even a veteran teacher at Wilton Manors Elementary School, let's say, I venture to say you can't afford to buy a house in Wilton Manors on a teacher's salary. And so you're and I'm very familiar with the transformation of your community over the last 20, 25, 30 years. It is I think, Wilton Drive, the center of the retail part of town is very impressive, and it's a very appealing place. But I wonder if you're a victim of your own success, really, that it's becoming an enclave for wealthy people, and people of modest or middle incomes can't afford to live there anymore.
Steve, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I couldn't disagree with you at all there, because the fact is we are very well known now across the world, actually, not just across America, and people want to move here, and the ones with the money are the ones that are coming here. And in the last, if you just look, like my house, I paid $85,000 for it back in '86, I believe. And my house is now worth $1.1 million. It just boggles my mind that a house that I just added a pool and added an extra room into would be worth that kind of money. And that's that little glitch of how do we blend us all together, And that's why all these developments coming in that not one of them have been okayed by the city yet. That I would like to see some workforce housing put in there with some smaller units, but I'd like to see them bigger than 400 or 600 square feet. I'd like to see like 800 square feet where they could actually have a family in there. And because, like you said, there's a lot of people out there that are working in the restaurant business, hotel business, teachers. There's a lot of jobs out there. I'm an upholsterer, but people that, have worked for me, they don't make, they don't make 70, 80, 100, $150,000 a year. They can't afford something that's going to cost them $3,000 a month. So we do need to work on that. And I think we are working on that. And I think you'll see a lot of movement in the next 2 years of some workforce housing being developed with developments coming into our city.
Okay. Mr. Corbin, I want to just ask you the same sort of philosophical question. The overall much broader direction the city's going in economically and demographically in terms of being unaffordable for a lot of people.
Right. We're catering towards the rich. I mean, we've got 1,200 new units pending right now. And so, I mean, and none of that is there's no mention of affordable housing in there. So, I mean, it's a bit late. I mean, they've sent the designs. They're almost across the finish line of getting approval. So don't listen to any of this affordable housing stuff. Let's look at Wilton Drive. It never should have turned into a 2-lane road. It should have stayed a 4-lane road. But the engineer, Christine Fanchi, she made a little engineering whoopsie with the traffic study. And so then they went ahead with that. But there's too much traffic for that. It took 3 years to put in these trees on Wilton Drive. And I don't know if you guys have been down there in the last month, but they planted them. And they've got these little bitty plants that they planted along these areas. It's really embarrassing what has actually happened out of it. But here's the point. It's not about looks and charm and all that stuff. It's about public safety. And I ride my bicycle for the last 18 years down Wilton Drive, okay? It used to be perfect. 2 lanes in each direction, a 3-foot bike lane, and in the middle was an open lane for turns and things like that. Right now, we have a bike lane and then another 6 feet next to the bike lane of just open space. Cars are using that as a passing lane, which I predicted when I got 800 people to sign the petition against narrowing Wilton Drive. And by the way, they want to narrow Andrews Avenue too. They're talking about that right now. But myself, I was riding my bicycle. There were 20 cars in line at a stoplight, and I was making a left turn in between the cars and that were stopped and trying to go to my destination. I heard a car rev their engine, and I looked, and this car went right down the bike lane where I was just about to enter. And if his muffler wasn't loud, I probably would have gotten run over by that guy. So ask anyone that rides a bicycle in Wilton Manors, has it gotten better or worse? And so many people say, I don't ride my bike anymore. And that was the whole point of the Complete Streets project, where you would have beautiful shady trees so you could walk during the hot afternoons, and you would have bike lanes for, alternative modes of transportation. So it's just been a failure.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Dan.
Okay. Can I ask something real quick? Mr. Corbin, earlier you said you would not fire the chief of police if you were elected. In your questionnaire, when we asked you to list your top 3 issues, one of your issues was hire an exceptional chief of police.
Absolutely.
So
and then put him back
square that circle for me
as assistant chief of police or something like that, or maybe fire him. Who knows? I mean, I'm not telling you what we're definitely going to do, but all I know is when we had 5 witnesses that were obviously lying during my false arrest, right? He stepped in, Blocker, stepped in and said, I'm going to take over this case, where they had, it was just obvious. And then I had a few strong words with him, and he just backed down and let the chief of police handle my false arrest, which in the end, it just made working for the Wilton Manors Police Department a real embarrassment, because I posted all the police reports, the witness statements, everything. I posted that online on a website that I created, and so many people said, I can't believe this is happening. This is so ridiculous. But Mike Satz refused to drop the charges. So I had to spend $25,000 of my own money in legal fees until I got right up to the trial, got dressed up for the trial. And then they said, just before jury selection, they said, oh, the charges are dropped. We found a video that clearly shows you didn't do anything wrong. It shows the 5 witnesses were lying, but we're not going to press any charges against the lying witnesses. Have a nice day. I got a couple issues with the Wilton Manors Police Department.
Steve, go ahead. I just wanted to clear up the fire and hire issue.
Appreciate that. Mayor Newton, do you have you might have made a passing reference to it. Do you have an unsolved homicide in Wilton Manors?
No, not that I know of. I mean, well, I think from 30 years ago or something like that.
Oh,
but-
okay. No, okay. All right.
I'm sorry. No, I just meant whenever we have a homicide in our city, the BSO investigation comes in because they have a special unit just for that.
Right. Mr. Corbin, I've seen you at a number of Fort Lauderdale City Commission meetings.
Good.
Yes, I have. And talking about, I know you're very passionate about water and environmental issues.
Yeah.
Mainly
water and sewer.
I think the diplomatic way to ask this question, and you're going to know exactly what I'm getting at. Do you get the same amount of respect and decorum when you appear in Wilton Manors as you do in Fort Lauderdale?
What do you mean? Elaborate on that.
I'm talking about you showing up at the Fort Lauderdale City Commission meetings and the mayor and maybe a commissioner speaking in a very sort of demeaning way to you and saying things like, you don't even live in this community.
Right. Yeah,
I've seen that.
I hear what you're saying because I got them. I read the engineering reports. I talked Ben Sorensen into doing a pilot study, which the Reese report from 2017 says the first step we need to do is do a pilot study to see how we can get clear water to our residents, the 250,000 people that drink our water. And I said to the commission, I said, look at the Corolla report, which this new water treatment plant is based on. I have a question for you guys. And I asked the Fort Lauderdale City Commission, I said, do you agree when the Corolla report says, well, we can't use ozone because there's a possibility that there's too much bromide in source water? And they had no answer to it. Neither did the guy that wrote the Corolla report. He says, I don't know how much bromide is in there. And then he goes on to say, the Corolla report goes on to say a bunch of BS, saying that it will cost $130 to $158 million per year to use carbon as a filtration method. Now, ozone and carbon, as the 2021 Reese report says, the Reese pilot study, which I talked Ben Sorensen into getting done,
Okay.
it says ozone and carbon is the way to go. They've been saying that since 1992. And they said it'll cost $7 million a year if we bring in carbon and ozone and refurbish 5 ash instead of building a whole new water treatment plant for $635 million. It would only cost $170 million to refurbish 5 ash. And they have no answer to that. They don't want to get down and dirty and talk about engineering reports. They just want to ignore it and move on.
Okay.
So that's why they're being disrespectful to me, because they have no answer to engineering questions.
Okay. Mayor Newton, is there any, everybody's familiar with the discoloration of the water in Fort Lauderdale, but the city of Fort Lauderdale insists it's completely safe to drink and to consume and to use. Do you have full confidence in the water quality that you're getting?
Well, I mean, of course, I like to have it better, but it's by its federal standards. And I mean, I drink it. I have a filtering system on my house, but I've had that since I moved in it in '86. So, I don't know what to say there. I think Boyd is a very good advocate for clean water. I do. I think he reads he does his back work for it. I think he knows a lot more than I do about it, and I respect him for that. But it's Fort Lauderdale that we have to keep talking to. We talk to Fort Lauderdale all the time. Just because I don't yell at Fort Lauderdale at my commission meetings about the water, we're trying to work with these people. They can charge us more than they do, and we keep trying to keep the water rates as low as we can. So I'm not going to beat Fort Lauderdale up, but do they need to redo their water system? Absolutely. Do they need to do something with the 5-ash plant? I agree 1,000% with Boyd. How they do it, I don't know. Like I said, Boyd knows more than I do about that information, and he's doing a good job going to Fort Lauderdale and arguing for it. I'll give him 100 kudos for that. But that has nothing to do with running and being the mayor of Wilton Manors and all the issues that we have in Wilton Manors. That's one issue that we try to help on, but we do not have a water plant. So I think he's great for being an advocate to go to Fort Lauderdale's commission meetings and fight for clean water for a lot of Broward County. I praise him for that, but that doesn't make you a good mayor.
Okay.
But real quickly, in 3 weeks, Fort Lauderdale is about to sign a contract that is going to throw away $500 million, which is going to cost each water consumer $2,000 just to build the plant. And then it's going to cost way more to run this nanofiltration plant because the electricity costs are astronomical.
Okay. Very briefly, Mr. Corbin, I'm going to give both of you guys a chance to make a closing statement because we're up against a time window here. But if I could, and I say this very respectfully, Boyd Corbin, you know these issues so well and you're so passionate about them. I think you're talking way over the heads of most people, including the people you want to represent in Wilton Manors. The average person on Wilton Drive is not a water filtration expert, okay?
They don't need to be. No, they just need to know that putting ammonia in our drinking water is bad for about a dozen different reasons. And when I write about it on Facebook, I educate them. I use about 8th grade vocabulary. I break it down very simply. So it's not that difficult to understand. You can do this for $170 million and clean water will come out, or you can do that for $635 million, run very clean water through the same pipes that turn it yellow or green or brown, and you're wasting $500 million. Instead, that money should go towards replacing the water lines. You know, Fort Lauderdale hasn't even done their consent order and fixed the valves. We're just another puncture away from another 24-hour water outage. So I don't know if that was my question or my closing statement.
No, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's get back on track. We're running out of time, but I'm going to give each of you about 1 minute to make the best closing statement you can. I know that's not much time, but that's time enough to make a strong argument on something. And Mr. Corbin, I'm going to go alphabetically. I'm going to ask you to go first, sir.
Okay, sounds good. Sewage flowing in the streets, police corruption, overbuilding, green drinking water, sacrificing commercial establishments to make developers rich, bad parking contracts, rampant speeding, safe bike lanes made unsafe by lane elimination project based on a faulty traffic study. All of this happened over the past 2 decades while my opponent was on the commission. You don't want to hear me complain, you want solutions. 3 months ago, I exposed the 18-year intentional sewage discharge at Andrews and 26th Street, which prompted the city commission to promise to spend $10 million next year fixing our sewer system. I will meet with the engineers and get good contracts signed to fix the problem. My opponent took 3 years to get disappointing trees planted on Wilton Drive. We don't have enough good code enforcement officers to manage vacation rentals. The city's response, make code enforcement inspect vacation homes twice a year. The city continues to try and ban vacation rentals, which is wrong. That's about a minute.
All right. Thank you, sir. Mayor Scott Newton, you have the floor, sir.
Wow, if things are so bad here, Boyd, I think I'd move out. It was that bad. But
I've heard that before. That's good.
My time to talk. Thank you, sir.
Mm.
But you know, I have the experience, and I think I have the backing of the community that they know that I have the best interest of the city and the residents of the great city of Wilton Manors. We have a saying that life's just better here, and I think I have over the last 22 years made life just better in Wilton Manors, and not just by what I say or what I do, but what you see. I mean, my opponent said something about Wilton Drive. I think Wilton Drive has gotten to the point like we said it was going to be. There's plenty of trees on there now. When the next 4 or 5 years, when they grow bigger, we're going to have a nice shaded community to walk up and down Wilton Drive. We're going to get more development in our city. If we didn't have any development at all, our taxes would go up thousands of dollars per person. People are upset about going up $100. Well, what would you think if you up $3,000 or $4,000 if we don't do some development? So we're doing smart development. I'm looking for workforce housing. I've been at that for years, especially when my daughter became a teacher and she could not find a place in Wilton Manors. You can't just keep pushing workforce housing farther west, farther north, farther south. They can't even afford to take the bus or Uber to work every day. But this community in Wilton Manors has changed dramatically in the last 30 years. And I think it's gotten into positive. Wilton Manors has been beautified in the last 10 years. I think this community has come together in the last 3 or 4 years. It used to be, the east side, the west side, central. Now they're all working together. So I think what I've done is help bring this community together. If you're gay, straight, black, white, west side, east side, central, I work to make sure that we all are looking at the same thing. We want to live here. We want to be safe here. We want to be able to flush our toilets. We want to be able to get drinking water. And that's what my job is.
Okay.
Is to make sure that our community is one that works together and has a place to live and be proud of. And that's what I want to do again as mayor, as Wilton Manors.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much. Boyd Corbin. Thanks, Scott Newton. Thank you both for being here this morning. Best
Thank
of
you,
luck.
guys.
So on.
Thank you, Dan, Steve. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.